Good morning, everybody. Wow, what a crazy result that we just got. Well, this is like an hour or so ago in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia. So, for those of you who don't know the news yet, Andy Ruiz comes in at 283 pounds. That is his heaviest weight since I'm just scrolling down here, his second pro fight in June of 2009. So that's his heaviest weight in 10 and a half years. Crazy. He was actually 297 for his first fight, 292 for his second fight, and got all the way down to 250 for his third fight. So he's been kind of in between any 260s, 250s, back and forth since then. And you guys know he was 268, Ruiz was, for the first fight on June 1st. They weighed in May 31st. And then today weighs in at 283. 283, man, that's a 15-pound gain. And then Anthony Joshua, 237. Now I'm looking at him. That's down 10 pounds for him since that first fight. And 237 for AJ, man, that's the least he has weighed since 2014. So, okay, 5 years. So that's the lightest he's been in 5 years. Now let's start with Anthony Joshua. So look, when I first saw these weigh-in results, you guys follow me on Twitter, you saw what I said. I mean, immediately I'm like, holy shit, what the hell is this? And I immediately thought, okay, Anthony Joshua, late knockout. Now, last night on the Neutral Corner, for those of you who haven't seen it yet or haven't listened yet, I said, you know, I've been saying Anthony Joshua by decision all along. But last night I said, don't rule out a late stoppage win for Anthony Joshua if he could start coasting late and setting up his right hands, and particularly an uppercut on the inside with a tired Andy Ruiz lunging in. Now on the surface, these weigh-in results kind of play right into that, right? I don't think a straight right hand could knock Ruiz out. I mean, it could, but I think he's going to see that punch coming and get under it. However, if he lunges in, I think that sneaky little uppercut AJ has that he caught Vladimir Klitschko with could get some damage done against Ruiz, particularly in the second half of the fight. I look at these weigh-in results. All right, Anthony Joshua, 237. Now, he was 247 6 months ago. And there's no fat on the dude, right? So he lost 10 pounds of muscle, essentially, in 6 months. Now, normally, that's not a healthy thing. There are fairly healthy ways to do it. There's probably more unhealthy ways to do it than healthy ways. However, AJ seems to me to always have been a guy that bulks up, that does a lot of weightlifting, kills a lot of protein, a lot of calories, a lot of good carbs to bulk up and put on weight. If that's the way you're putting on weight, if that's the way you're putting on muscle, you can let that muscle naturally atrophy, naturally kind of melt off by changing your diet, the amount of protein you're taking in and the amount of carbs, vegetables, all of that. So making adjustments to your diet and your workout routine, simply just putting down the damn weights and doing a different type of exercise. That muscle will naturally atrophy a little bit and melt off because it's not as if AJ was born that huge, right? He's put on that muscle by lifting and by eating a lot to bulk up like that. To keep that muscle on, you gotta keep lifting, you gotta keep eating. If you stop doing that, the muscle will naturally kind of melt off a little bit. But I don't know about 10 pounds in 6 months. I think that it would have been better for AJ to come in right at like 240. I would have preferred like 3 more pounds on him. But clearly, look, a lot of people have been talking about the psychology of this fight. There's a lot of that involved here. There's a lot of people who have been suggesting that AJ is done with boxing and he's mentally checked out and he's made so much money he doesn't give a shit anymore. To sacrifice, it takes an extreme sacrifice to melt 10 pounds off a body that was less than 10% body fat to start with, right? To do that in 6 months takes a hell of a lot of work and dedication and a complete change to the way you've been doing things. So clearly, to me, this weight from AJ suggests that he's still heavily invested in boxing and taking this fight seriously, very, very seriously. I would have been surprised if AJ would have come in at the upper 240s or even 250. That would have told me he ain't changed a damn thing. He is mentally checked out. That's what that would have said. Him coming in 10 pounds lighter tells me that there's still a hell of a lot of fire in the belly, and he's very, very eager to get these titles back and win and kind of set the record straight in his mind. So I like the weight for him. I would have preferred 240. I would have preferred a few more pounds on him, but 237, what we don't know is how he melted that muscle off. Did he do it the right way? Did he do it the wrong way? And how that could affect his stamina. Assuming he had the right strength and conditioning people around, the right nutrition people around, and he did this the right way. To me, the biggest difference I see in his body, and I talked about this on my show last night, is in the arms. His arms look thinner. They're still massive, thick, strong arms, but they are smaller. If you saw the way he looked for the first fight with Ruiz, he didn't look like a fighter. He didn't look like a fighter. He looked like a bodybuilder. He looks more like a fighter right now. A guy at his height, he's 6'6", they list him at. That probably means 6'5"-ish. 237 is a good weight, okay? He looks more like a boxer now than he's ever looked. Well, since he was young anyway. So I think this will bode well for him. I think clearly he's thinking rounds. He's thinking deep waters. He's thinking defensively, keep my hands up and have more fluidity, because AJ to me has looked more and more robotic in fights in recent years. He's just been stiff, and that's what happens when you lift too much. The tendons shorten up, all the fascia and all that changes. The connective muscles. You think about the prime movers, the big muscles. That's what you work out. You know, that's what you make bigger when you bodybuild. But it's all the connective tissue, the small muscles underneath the prime movers that can tighten up when you're constantly lifting, especially if you're not getting a full range of motion. You see dudes at the gym doing bench presses, 6-inch bench presses and shit. That's what you're doing. You're killing your elbow and your shoulders when you do shit like that. You're making your chest puff out and get bigger, but all that connective tissue underneath the prime movers, you're compromising them. And so I think that's starting to happen with AJ. I think this is going to be good for him. Now let's flip over to Andy Ruiz, 283. So clearly, look, Ruiz, we saw what happened over the summer. He blew up in weight. He had a good time. That's who he is. I think a lot of people are getting caught up in the moment with Ruiz, and there's a lot of fair weather fans that became fans of him on June 1st, which is cool. I understand that's the way sports works. But those of us that have known Andy, particularly in the Southern California fight scene, which is where I came up and cut my teeth in the biz, there's a lot of talk about him and the way he's behaved in gyms. And I've talked about this. I'm not going to rehash all of it. But for him to come in anything over like 270-ish, I think that's just a disappointment. I'm not surprised, but I'm still disappointed. Now, a lot of people have talked about, okay, I'm just looking at a picture here of Ruiz. He was wearing a sombrero, right? And he didn't take his shirt off. What's the psychology to this? Is he trolling? Is he trying to come in even heavier than he really is to troll Anthony Joshua? That's one way of looking at it, but let's look a little further into it. He was wearing a wife beater as a shirt, right? It's not as if he was wearing a big-ass puffer coat, a winter coat or some shit with pockets where he could line everything and he could have 5 pounds of shit in his shirt and look fat. He had a very thin black wife beater on. Black is slimming, black clothes are slimming, and a wife beater is about as thin as it gets material-wise. Oh, hold up, we have a super chat pledge. Let me see. Let me get my chat pulled up here. Hang on one second, guys. Okay, here we go. Super chat pledge from Florian. Thank you so much, Florian. I appreciate that. He says, finally, I could send you a super chat, my man. Hardly ever get to see you live due to time zone difference. Damn, Ruiz is 283. What was he doing? Thank you so much, Florian. I really appreciate it. And yeah, this is like an impromptu video. I just saw the weigh-in results and I'm like, man, do I do a rant video or should we just talk about it live? So I figure we'll just chat about this live. I hope you guys are enjoying this chat here as I'm wearing my what the hell do you call this? My jumpsuit here and drinking my coffee. Okay, so to your point, Florian, what was he doing? There's some people talking about conspiracy theories. I'm not going to say conspiracy theories, just the psychology. Maybe Ruiz is trying to troll AJ and get in his head and make it look like he's bigger than he really is. Maybe he's really 265. Guys, look at what he was wearing. Sombreros are heavy. They're like 5 pounds, but they're not 15, 20 pounds, okay? I've worn a sombrero, believe it or not. I was pretty drunk at the time, but I remember it being heavy, but it was maybe 5 pounds. So assuming that Ruiz had 5 pounds of shit on him, or let's say 10 pounds. Let's say the sombrero and his shoes and his pants and all that together were 10 pounds. Then that still means he weighed in at 273, which is still 5 pounds heavier than he weighed for the first fight. In my opinion, that's a huge disappointment. It doesn't make sense to me, and it shows that he entered camp at over 300 pounds, or right around 300 pounds. That's what I would assume. So some people are saying that this helps him. He didn't burn off, he didn't work too hard in the gym. He'll have more stamina. He'll have more weight to take AJ's punches. Guys, I just don't see that. I don't see that. This is supposed to be the fight of your career, right? You're supposed to come in at the same weight or even less than you were 6 months ago to show that dedication. Let me just show you guys. Ruiz fought Alexander Dimitrenko in April. He was 262 for that fight. It was 5 weeks later he fought AJ the first time. He was 268. So he put on 6 pounds in those 5-6 weeks, which is understandable. That's kind of what Ruiz does. But he was less for Dimitrenko early this year. Now, go back to 2018, his previous fight before Dimitrenko, Kevin Johnson in July. Man, he was 252. So this dude's steady been putting on weight. I just see inconsistency here, man. That doesn't bode well for him. Harrison Property with the super chat. Thank you very, very much, my man. He says, thanks for the live stream update, Mike. Thank you for watching and for supporting. I appreciate it. So I'm going to play psychologist here, and I'm going to go with the reverse of what some people are saying. I think Andy Ruiz put on a sombrero and wore a shirt at the weigh-in because he knew he was going to come in heavier. Is he 283 pounds? No, he's probably 275, 277, somewhere in that range, okay? But again, if he was trolling, I think he would have put on a big-ass coat, padded, with stuff in his pockets to look fatter than he really looks. He wore a slimming shirt. He wore a black wife beater to slim him down, yet he still covered it up, right? The weigh-in for the first fight, he had a shirt off. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember him having a shirt off for the weigh-in in the first fight. Not rocking a sombrero, nothing like that. Coming in looking lean and mean for him for that first fight. This time around, if you're going to troll, dude, go all out on your troll, right? Put on a big-ass heavy shirt at least. Put on what I'm wearing right here. Put on, a big fleece or whatever it is, a sweater or something, where you can line that thing up. Put on 2 or 3 shirts. Put on the wife beater, then put on a t-shirt over it, then put on a big-ass sweater. Put on 3-4 pounds of shirts. Put on some heavy pants, some jeans. It looked to me like he was wearing jogging pants. I couldn't see it, guys, but I mean, how heavy were his jogging pants and wife beater and tennis shoes? 2 pounds? 2 pounds maybe? Do you really think he stuffed 10 pounds of shit in the pockets, the 2 front pockets of those pants? Would he put shit in his shoes? What did he do? So I think some of those I shouldn't call them conspiracy, some of those theories that people are having about Ruiz trolling AJ, I don't know if I buy that, man. It doesn't add up. I've seen dudes post stuff like that at weigh-ins, but they didn't look like Ruiz looked. Again, a slimming black wife beater and jogging pants. Yeah, maybe a couple pounds there. And then the sombrero, maybe 5 pounds. So clearly this dude is still in the upper 270s. So he's probably gained 10 pounds in 6 months. We got one guy dropping 10 pounds. You got one guy gaining 10 pounds. I think that says a lot about how they're taking this fight. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'm changing my pick. I'm going to go with AJ late TKO stoppage here. And again, on my show last night, I said, don't rule out the stoppage. Let's see what happens with the weigh-in. I've been saying AJ decision, and it still very well could go that way. I still think that the keys to victory for Ruiz is to start early, particularly if you're this big, because he's going to gas later and later in the fight. He's got to go out there, punches and bunches, pressure from the first round on. He's not going to win a decision. He's not going to outbox Joshua from the outside. He's got to get inside, rough him up, throw a ton of punches in the early rounds, and try to hurt him and get inside his head. Try to bring him back to June 1st, Madison Square Garden in New York. That's what Ruiz has to do. AJ's got to fight very slow in those early rounds, not go for a knockout, not try to make a big statement, simply survive. At the same time, he can't just be a Mr. Defense. He can't just back up. He's got to catch. He's got to catch and move forward. As I said last night, jab, 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 hook off the jab, spin Ruiz, move him, and repeat. Get outside of Ruiz's power. You see the uppercuts coming, start catching those. In the middle, late rounds, start catching those uppercuts and those 45s, those looping shots. Catch those coming in at him and shoot over them. Catch, shoot, catch, shoot. If AJ does that, I think he can get the late stoppage win. I think that his corner is prepared for this fight. I think clearly he is, and that's what I see happening, man. Let me see what you guys think. Yeah, GP365 says it's starting to look like Ruiz is another Buster Douglas. We shall see. We shall see. But guys, people don't change overnight. Change is gradual. People do change, but change is gradual. And again, Ruiz's track record, right? I mean, I'm going to go back. Let's just go over his weights. Super chat pledge from Ray Valero. Thank you so much, Ray. He says, thanks for the overtime work, Mike. Good stuff. I appreciate it, Ray. Hope you're enjoying. Ruiz's weights, okay? I talked about going back to Kevin Johnson. Earlier in 2018, he was 260. He did not fight in 2017. In 2016, 255, 252, 253, 248. 2015, 248, 247, 267, 272, 250. This dude's all over the place. What does that tell you, man? His height didn't change. He changes this way, right? He's inconsistent. And you think suddenly now he overnight got consistent? I'm not trying to beat up on Andy Ruiz. I'm just saying that suddenly overnight you got consistent. I don't know about that. I just, look, if I'm proven wrong tomorrow and Ruiz comes out there and scores a 9th round knockout win over Anthony Joshua, which is something I'm not at all predicting could happen. If Ruiz wins, again, it's going to be early knockout. But if something like that happens and I'm proven wrong, cool. You know, whatever. No harm, no foul. It won't be the first time. It won't be the last time. So, but I'm just giving you guys my opinion. He has a track record of being inconsistent, not just in weight, but in performance. I could go up and down all these fights, man, and you can see just inconsistency in his performances, depending on who he's fighting and where he's at mentally. Did this guy enjoy his moment a little too much? Did he come into this fight going more so for the money? He made some good money in the first fight, but he's making life-changing money in this fight. And now he's got all this celebrity too, man. He's got all the hangers on. You got to think about that. So yeah, that's just the way I'm seeing it. Let's see. Let's go back to the chat here. Goodfellas Pulp Fiction says, I love how Andy Ruiz is now everyone's favorite fighter. Hashtag bandwagon. It's the way it goes in sports, dude. It's not just with boxing. It's like that in all sports. Who's the hot football team in the NFL this year? Seattle Seahawks are hot again. So now all of a sudden their fans are going crazy, right? Did you guys know any Seattle Seahawks fans 10 years ago? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? It's the way these things work. Let's see what else we got here. Harrison Property said, should AJ hold the middle of the ring? Yeah. Keep the fight in the middle of the ring. Don't let yourself get pinned on the ropes. And anytime Ruiz gets close, hold, clinch. You know what I'm saying? That's just what he's got to do. Smother that work. And beware of everything coming up at you. You know, looping shots to the side of the head, but also the inside work coming up at the chin. Hamed asks, who would you favor Ruiz to have a better chance against, Wilder or Fury if he beats AJ? Wilder. Although Wilder could sleep him. You know, I was thinking about this with AJ, because people are saying, oh, you know, he lost muscle. This might affect his knockout power. AJ's never been a one-hitter quitter, right? That's Wilder. Wilder can get you out. He can sleep you with one shot. Now, he could do that to Ruiz. However, Wilder's not a very good boxer. He's an underrated boxer in the sense that he does think in there and make adjustments, but he's technically so bad. Ruiz isn't technically great, but he makes up for that with, I think, just a natural fluidity and comfort fighting. He just is a natural fighter. He's been doing it for a long time now, and he has the natural movements. And I think he could catch Wilder with his looping shots and inside work, just like he caught AJ. And Wilder's been tagged and hurt before by guys who are 40 years old and barely cleared to fight medically. So I think Ruiz could catch him. Fury, I think, would just smother and box circles around Ruiz in a terribly boring fight. It'd be god-awful to watch. It'd be like watching Billy Joe Saunders, his last fight. That probably even worse than that. It'd be very boring, but I think Fury would probably win 10 or 11 rounds in a 12-round decision against Ruiz. That's just the way I think about it. Oh, we got a question here from Iset asking, Mike, what about the Povetkin-Hunter fight? I like that fight a lot. I'm edging Hunter. I think Hunter's going to win a decision in that fight. Povetkin's very sneaky, very dangerous, but he's just well past his best days. And I think that he's going to have success early on. We're going to see Hunter might even get dropped early in that fight or buzzed early on, but he's going to start to catch up in the middle rounds and start to coast late and win a tight decision against Povetkin. That's what I see happening. Ivan Garcia asks, if AJ loses, what's next for him? Dude, it depends how he loses, but clearly he still wants to box. People are saying, oh, he's going to retire if he loses to Ruiz. I don't think so. I think he's going to continue fighting, and he'll just rebuild, man. He can go back to the UK, and there's still plenty of domestic level fights. A rematch between him and Dillian White moves the needle still over there. There are guys he could fight over there. Look, if Tyson Fury loses the rematch to Deontay Wilder, a fight late next year between Joshua and Fury over in the UK, that's still big business. So he's still going to be a brand, and he's going to stick around, man. Feed Me Stat says, if Ruiz loses, I want Ortiz versus Ruiz. Yeah, sign me up for that. That'll be fun. For what it's worth, I think Ruiz will beat the brakes off Ortiz. I think Ortiz will have moments and, you know, technically do well in the early rounds, but by the middle rounds, I think Ruiz would start to lump him up. Harrison Property says, not a single dislike, Mike. Finally, don't worry, they're coming. The thumbs down are coming, my man. They're on every video. Tom Savage says, don't think AJ will be keen to fight inside. Might be some Vlad style tying up and leaning on. Yeah, absolutely, Tom. I agree. It's smart. And for the record, Vlad didn't start that. Lennox Lewis didn't start that. I mean, it goes back, not even Ali. If you watch some of Ali's prime fights, you guys think Vladimir Klitschko held a lot? Watch some of Ali's prime fights. What you see the highlights of from Ali are the memorable moments, the knockout of George Foreman and stuff. That dude clinched a lot. Watch his rematch with Joe Frazier, okay? And Ali didn't create holding and clinching. Man, that goes all the way back. It's part of especially heavyweight boxing. You think about it, guys, if you're in a enclosed space in that ring and you got two dudes who are over 6 feet, now you're talking 6'6", 250. Boom, boom, two athletic moves from both guys and they're all over each other. They're clinched. That's heavyweight boxing. It's just part of it. If you're a lightweight, man, you can hop all around the ring like a bunny and never even touch each other. But if you're a heavyweight, each guy takes 2 steps, boom. That's just how it is. So with AJ, yeah, man, he's got to clinch. He's got to hold. He's got to use those mauling tactics a little bit. Yeah, Ray Valero says Ali versus Wepner was a hug fest. Yeah, dude. Again, with Ali, it's a lot of waxing poetic, and I get it. He had amazing moments, and that's what you're going to highlight when you highlight a guy's career. You're going to talk about those highlights. But trust me, guys, go back and watch some of Ali's fights. He had some absolute stinkers in his career where he was like a mini Klitschko in there, the way he clinched, or a mini Lennox Lewis, because Lennox clinched a lot too. It's smart, tactical fighting. It's part of fighting if you're a big guy. It's just part of the way you box at that level, particularly if you got a lot on the line. Hamed asks, does Joshua have to fight on the back foot like Joseph Parker against Ruiz? Is it more comfortable to be on the back or the front foot versus Ruiz? I think it'd be a mistake to fight strictly on the back foot, Hamed. Again, I think that Joshua is still the bigger guy. I get that he doesn't weigh more, but he's still the taller, more physical, more imposing fighter. He's got to move forward. A taller fighter should never move backward unless he's laying traps. Now, middle rounds and stuff, he starts to see some things with Ruiz and wants to back up and lure him in and counter. Okay. But early on, he's just got to catch. He's just got to shell up, catch, and work behind the jab and move Ruiz backward a little bit. Make Ruiz work. If he does that, then I think that's much better. If he just backs up and lets Ruiz have the momentum, that's the wrong message. That's sending the wrong message early on. He's got to, again, not go for broke, not try to knock him out early and lose his fundamentals like he did in the first fight. He's got to come forward, but he's got to do it tactfully. Is that a word? He's got to do it technically. How about that? I can't think this morning. I need some more coffee. Sean Richardson asks, Mike, who do you think will win between Harrison and Charlo? It's like I've been saying for the past year, Charlo is going to win that fight. It should be in Detroit. Tony Harrison should have got a voluntary defense in between. Now, I know he got injured, but it's kind of a shame the way they did Tony Harrison in that situation. It's a real shame. I was hoping for the sake of Detroit boxing that he would have at least gotten a voluntary defense in Detroit, or that this rematch would have taken place there. But putting it where they're putting it, look, just bet the bank on Charlo to win that fight. Trust me. That's how these things work. All right. Centurion Son says, Montero, who you picking? You must have just got on the chat, Centurion. Watched TNC yesterday. I break it all down. And so I'm favoring Joshua. Now I'm thinking late TKO win for Anthony Joshua. But I'm still, it's like 51% that, 49% decision win for Anthony Joshua. Gail Falkenthal is on the chat. She says Ruiz Jr. might be slower on his feet, but the weight won't affect his hand speed. I completely agree, Gail. Completely agree. And that's why, again, this weigh-in result does not change the game plan for AJ. Shell up, catch the shots. They're not going to be coming straight. They're going to be looping shots at his temples. They're going to be 45s and uppercuts at the chin. He's got to see all that. He's got to move forward. He's got to back Ruiz up. Off the jab. Stay back, work off the jab, catch everything with the right hand, whether it's here, 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 right? And just keep that head back. And then middle rounds, when Ruiz is a little softened up, then you could start setting some traps. You've been moving forward 3, 4, 5 rounds. He's used to backing up. Back him up with a couple jabs, then back up yourself. Let him lunge in, catch him with something. Start setting that up, right? And then as you move into the late rounds, then all of a sudden the uppercut starts to work as Ruiz gets desperate. He's way behind, starts to lunge in. He's tired. The looping shots don't have any sting on them anymore. You can get a little more aggressive if you're AJ. That would be my game plan. For Ruiz, going in there, diving in, and just getting the shots off, that's the game plan. But what happens after 3, 4, 5 rounds if that ain't working? What happens if AJ's caught all those shots and you've been eating a ton of jabs to get your way in? And suddenly the shots that were open for you in the first fight, when you were throwing those left hooks on the inside, AJ's head ain't there no more. You're hitting his right glove. Every time you shoot that shot, you're hitting his right glove. Every time you come up with the uppercut, he's knocking it down with his right glove. What happens after 4 or 5 rounds of that for Ruiz? He's suddenly going to become a boxer? That's not a style. So I don't see how he can get out of that and do anything different later in the fight. Again, if I'm proven wrong, I will eat the crow and I'll admit it right here. But I just don't see it. Ruiz's best chance for victory are in the first 4 or 5 rounds. After that, it's all AJ. That's just the way I see it. Yeah, AJ needs to make it a technical contest, absolutely. And then he will have opportunities in those championship rounds to make a statement. And that's another thing I want to see from AJ. We know what he's got to do. He's got to make it technical. He's got to clinch. He's got to make it slow. But once he's got his man softened up, does he try to make a statement? Not only does he do the smart thing to get the fight into those later rounds, but is he going to be just comfortable winning that decision? Or is he going to go for it in the 10th, 11th, 12th round and try to hurt Ruiz and get him out of there? Because that would be not just him winning this fight by decision. If he just fights technically the whole fight, okay, that's good. It shows that he's legit and he could come back from a loss and all that. But if he puts a stamp on it and stops Ruiz, no one's done that, that would be a huge statement. And it'd show that he's still a premier heavyweight to be respected and feared by the other top guys. How about this? Does weight matter for heavyweights? Heavyweights tend to come in different weights. Yeah, it matters to a certain degree. I mean, look at Buster Douglas when he fought Mike Tyson, and then look at Buster Douglas when he fought Evander Holyfield. It matters. It does matter. You can tell a lot about a guy. Now, everyone's genetics are different, and some people fluctuate in weight. I understand that. But if you're a professional athlete, a professional fighter, your weight should stay within a certain range. You don't have to be a body beautiful. You could be a soft guy. You can have a little bit of a tummy and everything, but that tummy should stay within a relative range. It shouldn't be jumping 50 plus pounds, which is what Ruiz has done in his career. It's crazy. All right, guys, so we've been going here for over 30 minutes. There we go. We got 2 down votes. Awesome. I knew they were coming. All right, so 2 of you disagreed with 2 statements I said and disliked the video. There you go. You feel like big men now? You made your point. You took a stand. Good for you. For the rest of you, thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Ray Valera says, Dubois versus Ruiz next year. Dubois, I'm really high on him. My favorite heavyweight prospect. Not ready for that fight yet, bro. Not ready for that fight. I think Ruiz would chop him up right now. Needs some more work. Needs some more seasoning. All right? But he'll be there in a year or 2. You know what I'm saying? I should say a couple years. But he needs kind of to fight guys in the middle of where he's been, and a guy like Ruiz, who's still a top 10 heavyweight. I think he's going to lose tomorrow, but he'll still be a top 10 heavyweight. We need to see Dubois fight guys in the top 20, 25 first before making that leap. That'd be too far. Let's see. All right, one last question here, and then we'll go. GP365Y says, what is your favorite dream fight to talk over a single malt, Mike? It depends who I'm with. It depends who I'm with. But if I'm with like a casual fan and they don't know a whole lot about boxing, of course I'm going to talk about Gotti Ward. Because after I've talked about those fights with so many people, and then they've gone back and watched the fights, about talk about it, give them the history of the 2 fighters. We'll go back and watch the fights. And then HBO did a great documentary on the 2 of those guys in their fight series, and I'll forward that to them. I've made fans out of boxing talking about those fights and the history and everything else. And then those 2 fights tie back to a history of fights that go back decades, particularly in the Northeast in the United States, that I could go back to. So I love talking those fights, man. And I see one of you guys commented, Lobitos Said, Michael, the sombrero and the clothes at least 7 pounds. I hear you, man. I talked about that earlier in the video. That still means he weighs 276. He's still almost 10 pounds heavier than he was 6 months ago. It tells me he came into camp over 300 pounds. It tells me that he's not quite as dedicated to this as he may be leading on. Again, it might not matter. It might just, guys, sometimes in boxing, and really in all sports, but sometimes in boxing, one guy just has another guy's number. And for whatever reason, he always gives this guy shit. You know, like Juan Manuel Marquez always gave Manny Pacquiao fits for whatever reason. I thought Pacquiao won the majority of their fight, you know, their rounds because of his power and everything like. Actually, in terms of rounds, it's pretty close, I should say. But Pacquiao is the better fighter than Marquez. In my opinion, stratosphere better. But Marquez always gave him issues. So it could be one of those things. We might be talking about tomorrow. Hell, man, it's only going to be about 24 hours from now, 25 hours from now that we'll be watching the fight together. We might be saying, yo, man, Ruiz just has AJ's number. Maybe. We shall see. All right, guys, that's it, man. I got to get back to work on some projects. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Be right back here on the channel. We'll watch the fight live together. We'll chop up the drama as it unfolds, all right? I'll see you tomorrow.